Evaluation report for program year 23. Briefly, we're going to go over the executive summary. So the CAPER, as we call it, it goes over the Community Development Block Grants program year 23. So it shows all the achievements that are done during the fiscal year and what is done during the 2019 to 2023 five-year consolidated plan. For the program year 2023, Sandusky was allocated $708,428 to spend on eligible activities for the program year 23, which began in July of 23 and went through the end of June of 24. And the formula for that is calculated through HUD, and that changes every year. Sandusky administered several different activities, and that includes public facility improvements, code enforcement, clearance and demolition activities, youth and public service activities. Of the funding, $549,004, or 77%, was drawn down. The rest of the money is on track to be spent as they are already allocated to projects. So the CAPER also contains information about previous program years. So that's also in here about anything that was spent between June 30th of 2023 and July 1st of 24. And that can happen because projects span multiple years and there can be carryover funds. Ooh, can you guys see that okay? I'll try to read through this. The coloration's a little different. So on the first column, there is a 2019-2023 consolidated plan goal listing, and it lists all of our main goals that are in our consolidated plan. And then it also goes, if I go to each column, the next one is what it was allocated in our action plan for 23. So every year we do an action plan where we allocate different amounts of money to each program. Then the next column shows the percent of funds that was used, and then the activity name of that program, and then what kind of indicator or description was used, and then the unit of measure for that description or activity, and then what was estimated that we used for that, and then what we actually achieved, and then there was a percentage calculated. So there's a lot of information shoved in one chart. The main goals that we had in our consolidated plan was for housing, neighborhood stabilization, special needs assistance, and there was a response to COVID. So I will go over these activities in more detail. So I'm not going to go through the whole chart. We can come back to it if you want, but I will go through each of these in detail during the next slides. So the first category is housing, and the listing in the comprehensive plan is to provide affordable housing and remove barriers for fair housing. So during program year 23, the city supported that goal by engaging a fair housing consultant who fielded 119 calls. And he also did some fair housing material distribution, and he hosted multiple workshops. And the total cost for that activity was $9,500. The city also demolished 8 structures during the program year, and that totaled $239,145. The city is also on track to demolish 937 West Washington Street, which is a commercial structure. That should be happening soon. And then for the housing rehabilitation activity, the city provided funding as leverage to the Erie County Health Department, and that was used to extend their Lead and Healthy Homes program for Sandusky residents. And this year, that partnership resulted in 2 houses being rehabilitated, and the total for that was $43,649. So I'm going to go through each of these slides, and then we can do questions all at once if that works for everybody. Neighborhood stabilization is the next project, or the next category goal, and And the action for that from the comprehensive plan is to enhance the quality of life for people living in low and moderate income neighborhoods through public investments in public facility improvements and services, as well as the elimination of blight. So through the program year, the city had some community development activities, and those were focused on recreation and transit activities this year. So for recreation, we did some park improvements, and that included installing seating at Sproul and J.C. Park. And then there was also a ball field regrading, and those totaled $26,316 for all of those projects. As far as transit improvements, there were transit waiting facility improvements done. There was equipment that was purchased for 2 stops along the transit route. The stops were located at 5 points. There's in Buchanan and Camp Street. And the total for those projects was $14,582. And then the other category activity was public facilities, and that included resurfacing, and that included the roads. There were 7 segments done with that. And that was done under budget. That was $197,880, and those carryover funds will be used in program year 24, which will be starting soon. The next comprehensive plan goal is special needs assistance. The action is to promote access to public services for special needs populations, generally assumed to be low and moderate income, including but not limited to programs addressing youth, children, seniors, elderly, and frail elderly, veterans, and persons with mental, physical, or developmental disabilities, alcohol or drug addiction, HIV and AIDS, or other special needs. So to reach that goal, the city during program year 23 covered code enforcement. So in program year 23, there were 2,283 violations that were recorded from the code enforcement staff, and of those, 1,541 enforcements, or 67%, resulted in compliance, and a total of $90,000 was spent on that activity. Another activity was supporting the youth program for the city. The city engaged 577 youths during the program year of 23, and the total for that was $55,000. And the last special needs assistance was through the subrecipient grants. We had several this year. The Erie County Senior Center, we supported the Meals on Wheels program, New Jerusalem Church's heating and cooling shelter program, and OGO's mobile food pantry program. So altogether with all 3 of those, there were 230 people assisted. And the total for all 3 of those programs was $51,264. The last goal is for COVID. We actually spent all our COVID dollars, so that's good. I have nothing to report on that. So I don't have anything on this one, so it kind of got grouped in with the next couple slides. This map right here shows all the eligible census group areas. The orange areas are considered low and moderate income areas. That is one of the national objective areas that the CDBG deems as eligible to receive funding. And those areas are calculated by HUD, and again, they use census data. From those areas, we had to pick a target area or how much we were going to assist low and moderate income populations. And our target this year was 80%. This year, for program year 23, we had 87% of our projects located in those areas. And then just wrapping up, there is a public comment period on the actual document itself. The document is located online. There is a copy that will be available in the lobby. I noticed somebody took it, but I will replace it again. It said, please do not take, but that's okay. There's also one at the library, and by request, if you need one, I can print you out one. Comments from that will be included in the public comment section of the plan, and it will be mentioned at the public commission meeting on September 9th. And then I have the link of the city's website where you can access it and my contact information. So at this time, if you guys want to go over any specific questions on the plan or the charts or any of that, I will open it up. Don't all jump in. Go ahead.
I'm always willing to get the party started.
Sure, let's go.
I did not take your copy out there. I printed out.
No, that's okay.
I promise.
That's all right.
Okay, I printed out my own.
It's okay.
Okay, so a number of questions. I'll try to be real quick. How does the city or whoever we work with on lead abatement, how does that group assess? I mean, is it like I have to call the health department and say, hey, I think I have lead? They don't send anything out like saying, hey, your home was built before 1973 or whatever year. They don't do that? Okay. It's up to me to contact them.
So, yeah, the process is we refer everyone to the Erie County Health Department, and they actually have a screening process that you actually have to be low income and all these other things to qualify for the funding. And for our funding, you have to live in the city of Sandusky to get that. So it has to benefit low income city residents.
Okay. Do you have a breakdown handy, or maybe you can get it to me, the dollars spent for rental versus mortgage assistance? Do we have a breakdown of how much we've spent for rental assistance?
We didn't do any of that this year.
Okay, that would have been handed out to a different agency?
We didn't have any rental or mortgage assistance programs this year at all.
What was the last year that we did that?
2020, I think.
Okay.
Okay, which leads me to my next question. So we're going to start working on the 25 to 30?
We're in program year 24 right now.
Okay, but we should be starting the next 5 years soon?
We just finished our last comprehensive plan.
Okay.
It just got passed earlier this year.
Okay, is there money from this document that is unencumbered yet that we can put into rental assistance moving forward?
No, this is just literally going over what was accomplished last year.
And it's going to commission?
To get comments, pretty much.
To get comments on, great plan, okay.
It's not a plan, it's a report.
Yeah, this is the evaluation of last year's spending.
Okay, okay. Okay, so this 111-page document.
Right.
I didn't print the whole thing out, but, so do we hire consultants to do that, like, at the end of 5 years to put together an entire 111-page document?
Yes, no, I wrote that one.
Okay.
And that is the plan just for this year, going over what we did.
Okay.
There's an action plan that's done every year, and we do that in-house generally. We just had our comprehensive plan redone this year. That's online, and we did have a consultant do that.
Okay, great job on this.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Home purchase, so for the home purchase program assistance that you mentioned in the report, does that have to be also low to moderate income to qualify for that assistance, or can anybody apply for that home purchase assistance?
We don't do home purchase assistance.
Okay, I thought it was mentioned in this 111-page.
We do activities towards supporting housing.
Okay.
So like a rehab would be considered supporting housing, if that makes sense. The document is very confusing at different parts. I could see where that could be, confused with that language.
But we do have a different program that's not CDBG led.
Right, and that's local issue.
Down payment
Yep.
assistance. Okay, I get it.
Yep, Debbie Eversole does that one.
The only last question I have is the 111-page document mentions, and I'd love to see us put down 40,000 people living in the city of Sandusky because we might get more money that way. But it mentions 29,000 residents in the city of Sandusky, and I'm not really too sure where that number's coming from. There's like 23,000.
Do you know what page?
I think it mentioned several times in the entire document. like maybe 5 or 6 times in the entire document.
Was it the people that benefited? Does it say that? Because it could possibly be talking about who benefited.
Okay, well,
I can get with you after
yeah, that's
this.
fine.
and look.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's the last one. I'm sorry to
No,
take
you're
up so
fine.
much time. I'm sorry.
You're fine. Does anyone else have any comments? Yep.
Nicole, the 3 categories that are under 100% on this.
Yep.
Does that money just roll
Let's go back.
over? Fair house, I think it's the top 3 categories up there.
So we're not technically going to lose any money because it's under. That is just from the comprehensive plan. That's just saying we didn't meet the goals we set in our comprehensive plan. It's just a goal that's out there. We spent all our fair housing money, if that makes sense. It's just a number that's,
Just the number.
yeah.
My other question was on this Washington Street property.
Mm-hmm.
The demolition.
Right,
Does that, can we assess back on that,
yes,
even with CDBG's out?
yep. Sue?
So for the workshops that were held on fair housing, would you happen to know what the issues were, the dominant issues, and how many people actually showed up to participate in a workshop?
I can get you that information,
And, yeah, I would be interested in knowing where the problems lie.
right? I think,
And
yep.
the degree of participation.
And maybe Mr. Chamberlain can elaborate, not to put you on the spot, but,
We did hold a landlord symposium back in,
was it June, maybe?
yeah, early June. And we did have a component with the fair housing, Mr. Eager came to do a presentation on fair housing for the landlords that came to that. So we had, I want to say there were about 20 landlords that had come and heard the information.
And the presentation was on what your responsibilities are as a landlord.
Well, yeah, our side of for the housing authority was more so like our program and what the requirements are, what we expect to see in the near future, and then we had a component of it, the fair housing presentation. He talked about a lot of fair housing.
Yeah, I think
There were questions, and he took their questions on it.
companion
He
animals.
also had a session the week prior at the Sandusky Library, but I wasn't at that one, so I don't know.
Thank you, Ralph. I'll get more information for you though, Sue, but, yep. Yeah,
Yeah, I had another question. I'm sorry, I missed it. On the large document, it states that the Recreation Department received $55,000 for youth programming. When I printed this off, it cut out some of the sheet, some of the paper, but it did look to me like it was, the $55,000 was used for salaries.
it is.
Is there a way, I mean, I know it's too late now, but like if we get into that again, the next 5-year plan, I'll bring it up again during that session, I guess, that we can use that $55,000 for programming instead of for salaries. I mean, Sandusky does have a record budget. It seems like a record income budget every year, so I'd like to see us pay salaries out of our income tax, property tax, admissions tax, all that stuff for salaries, and then dedicate money just for the programming.
So we can put the comment in the plan, but the plan is already
Already set in
written.
stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
But I can put it in here.
Sure.
Anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Tim. I'll let Tim go first.
Under code violations, do you guys track idle violations?
No, so the code violations that are reported on here are only the numbers when I am paying the code enforcement's salary. So there are actually more code violations than that, if that makes sense.
But we certainly do track
Yes.
the violations that are prepared based on inspections. And if that's something you're interested in, we could certainly follow up and give that information to you.
Go ahead.
Just a couple questions. You said that we did in public service pay with 7 streets.
Yes,
Which streets?
I can get back to you on it. I don't know off the top of my head. There's been a lot of streets. but I can get back to you on it.
If you would, because I think my question, and it goes along with what Tim is a point that he made that maybe you're not understanding, is that this is money that we're supposed to help. And it appears that a lot of this money is being spent for salaries. So we're not doing the city any good. We're keeping people employed, but we're not doing any benefit to the citizens.
Okay.
Well, specifically on the dollars that are used for streets, that is for the payment to the contractor that's doing the streets. And I can actually look up for you right now, real time, and before you leave here today, let you know what streets. And remember, please, that the streets that we cover, pun intended, with these dollars have to be in a CDBG area. It can't be just, anywhere in the city. So we're very specific where the CDBG dollars are used for street repaving with CDBG dollars.
I believe, but a year ago, we paid the parking lot over here. That was a direct benefit to the downtown. To me, that money should be used Clinton Street, Harrison Street, anything on the east end, streets that, don't have curbs, gutters, sidewalks. That's where the benefit goes. Spend $55,000 of recreation department for employees, but not $55,000 to entertain kids in the summer, actually spending the money to be what I think the program was intended to. You had $90,000 for code enforcement. Again, I'm taking that as you spent $90,000 on salaries, not $90,000 of helping people with something.
So for code enforcement, we have to use it on salary. That's the only eligible category for that. For code, to use money on code enforcement, you have to pay salary. You can't use it to correct the way the law is written for CDBG. That would be a whole different category.
But your comments are well received. And what I'm hearing from both Tim and from you, Mr. Fiker, that the preference you're stating is that CDBG dollars go into programming or in some sort of activity that's happening in the community versus salaries.
Something, a direct benefit to the community. And we talked about this in years past, and it doesn't seem like things change. And so I just bring that up again, only as Tim did. I'm not going to pick on Tim, but it's something that comes up every year, but yet nothing changes. We're spending this money on salaries for people, not this money on helping people. We had 2 houses that had lead abatement.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how that program works?
Yes,
How does that program work?
through the health department.
Okay. Do you know how long it takes to do one?
It depends on all the paperwork and the contractors. I'm not sure exact timeline,
I
but
can tell you, I'll give you, I applied for one in April. I called last week to find out where we stood in line, and I was told, well, we're waiting for the city. And I said, okay, you're waiting for what in the city? Well, they've got a couple things they've got to do. It's going to take 2 to 3 weeks. And I said, okay, fine. When that's done, what are we looking at? They said probably another 4 to 6 months before actual work starts. In other words, you apply, we've got a problem with lead in the house, but we're not going to see abatement for over a year. I mean, something's wrong.
If you could give us the specific address after the meeting, we can look into that for you. It sounds, I'm not quite sure what they would be waiting from the city for. I mean, the application is taken by the health department. It's screened by the health department, all of the specs. We see it at the end. We see a request for payment at the end.
Well, it hasn't even been funded yet. It's still waiting for paperwork from the city to say that it's an applicable property. In other words, one of the things is the property in the flood zone. So there are 3 things the city has to do.
I believe you're talking maybe about the environmental reviews, and those do not take that long.
Well, again, I started the process in April, and as of yesterday, I still hadn't had an answer back, but when they did ask, they said they were waiting for the city for something that takes the city 3 weeks to do.
Okay, we can get the address and I can check on that for you.
There's no need to anymore, because quite honestly, after all that period of time, I told them to screw it.
Well, frankly, I'd like you to give us the address so that we can follow up, so that we can make sure if there are kinks in our procedures, we can correct those.
Well, there is a kink. If it takes that long to even get an answer with it, that's something.
Right. Again, if you could give us the address, we will look into it, and we'll let everyone know what the result of that is.
John, who did you talk to at the health department?
His name Carter.
He's assessor. He's a lead assessor. He's not one of the managers.
Maybe, I think Bob Anderson still runs that
Well,
program.
He does.
Runs it, but when we did everything, they said this guy will get back with you. And so he's the one that we kept in touch with, so to speak. When I said in touch with, we had to keep calling him because they won't follow up.
We ran in and out of regional planning for a while before the health department got it. It is a lengthy process, but it shouldn't take that.
No, sure.
But Bob's probably the guy to, I see him, I'll say something.
And me as well, which is exactly why I asked for the address, so that we can make sure that we're providing, good service.
Anybody else? I hate stealing the show, so anybody else has any questions, they can ask first. Okay, anybody else?
I just had one comment to the issue of the code compliance and the salaries. We have worked with the housing authority, we've gotten information from code compliance about units that might be on the program or might not be for our assistance. So we do appreciate that code compliance does their work and can get those units up to a level where our clients that are low income should have decent units and be there. So that's something that I'd like to point out.
Thank you.
Do we know how the city assesses or comes up with a list on which CDBG eligible streets or parking lots are completed or on the plan based on the condition of the property? Or do we just say, hey, these streets here are, in the area, so let's do this one, but this one over here might be worse? Do we have or in the future, can we do a rating system, moving forward, a rating system so that if there's something besides the Daly's parking lot that is in worse condition, we can do that first, and then if Daly's parking lot's low priority, then eventually get to that. Just like we've done studies on all the city streets. We've done a couple of studies on that, and we typically rank streets based on condition, and we try to do those first. Maybe we need to do something moving forward into the future in that respect.
And from my understanding, that's where the streets are actually picked.
Okay, from that original list, okay.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Well, I guess we're done then. I thank you guys for coming, and I thank you for your comments. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out.